Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a certified financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm also a managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. Today, my friends, we're going to be talking about time and money. Money and time. Finkel and Einhorn and Finkel. Come on, Ace Ventura fans, are you with me now? I want to share something that is really coming from an experience of nearly 2 decades being a financial advisor. Don't necessarily go and prepare your financial plan on this number here, but hear me out. Investing is about 10% intellect and 90% temperament or your emotion. It's a test, essentially, if you think about it, of how well you can sit quietly. And as I've said before, almost what you don't do matters more than what you do. So it's a test of how well you can sit quietly when your emotions are screaming at you to do the wrong thing. And we're going to talk about how time and money and time equal freedom for each of you. But before we do, make sure to go to our website at onecapital.com. You can click on our media tab, and there you can download and subscribe to the Make Your Money Matter show. You can also download the show on any other platform, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud or the Apple iTunes app. And I want to ask you to leave us a comment. Give us some feedback. It's always good to hear from you. And I want to expand on my opening there around investing being 10% intellect and 90% emotion. Let's walk through a basics, what we all pretty much know, right? When we talk about investing in general, what's the first thing you think of, right? Okay, I want to buy something lower than what I sell it for. If I buy something for $10 and I sell it for $12, I bought low, sold high, boom, investing 101. But here's what I want to go back to first base here for a second. Work, as all of us are doing that aren't retired, brings us what? It brings us money. And money, what we are earning, if you will, buys what? It buys assets at the time that you're working and bringing that money in. Now, ultimately, your assets bring you what? Wealth. That's the word we're going to define today. And then wealth ultimately buys you the ticket, in my opinion, to freedom. So work brings you money, money buys you assets bring you wealth, and wealth, my friends, buys you freedom, time and money. What is money to someone? Now, I've said this before, and it's a quote from a book by George Clason called The Richest Man in Babylon. And I love this quote. And it's something I've learned years ago, actually when I was studying economics in undergrad. And I read this book, and it says, money is plentiful for those who understand the simple laws which govern its acquisition. Now, not going into the theoretical or the macro view of the laws, quote unquote, of money principles, I want to focus on one. And I say it often in what you've likely heard me say is the 2 Ds, discipline and discernment. And I want to focus on the first one for a second. And I know, friends, if you're tuning me out right now, you're like, oh gosh, this guy's going on again about discipline. I'm telling you, my friends, this is what matters. The people that I've been around in my business as an advisor that I've been blessed to serve, and at this point now in our career at our firm with all of our advisors, we're managing nearly $5 billion for clients, around 2,000 clients nationwide. We've seen a thing or two with different zeros behind certain people's names. And neither that they're better humans or not better humans. I think a lot of times, as you heard me say a couple weeks ago, that comparison's the thief of joy. And I will say this, many times, sadly, more money, more problems. But I want to share some of the concepts that we've learned from the higher net worth individuals and bring it to all of us, because I think we all can learn from experience. You know, someone once asked Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motors, what is the secret to success? And his answer was, make wise decisions. Well, initially the follow-up from the person asking him said, how do you make wise decisions? And his answer was, from experience. Now, naturally, the next question was, well, wait a minute, how do I get experience? And here's his answer. You get experience from making stupid decisions. Many of us right now could think of a stock or a purchase or an investment that in hindsight, we probably shouldn't have made, right? We all have those experiences. And there's been actually a lot of studies on this from a behavioral financial standpoint, something that I'm very into, as many of you know, that there's a focus that our minds tend to focus on the $1 loss more than the $10 gain. Because I would argue right now that, myself included, I could think of one or two investments or purchases that probably weren't the best purchases. I either bought too high and now it's undervalued, or it just went kaput and it wasn't really a good investment in general, whatever it might be. But my mind tends to focus on that one, like I get very myopic, right? That one specific wrongdoing, and I just glaze over the 10 other positive things. And I think when I meet with someone, I just had a discovery meeting yesterday with a client. We were talking about some of these investing philosophies. He's had his retirement plan, kind of contributing to it, often has other investments. And we were talking about investment philosophy in general. And typically as an advisor, what I want to do is I want to meet everyone where they are at that current time. And I also want to be able to understand, in hopefully 45 minutes to an hour discovery meeting, where they've been. And a lot of that comes through good questions. And so we've refined our process. And in 18 years, I've done this, I think at some point here, over 10,000 hours. So I feel very proficient in what I'm doing and how I'm asking the questions, because how you ask a question to someone helps each of you really see for yourself where you've gone through. Both the circumstantial, like the stuff you've lived through, the good and bad, maybe that bad investment or those good investments or whatever it might be, as well as some of your DNA, right? Just who you are naturally as a person. Are you an aggressive person? Are you more of a passive person? Are you kind of a type A? Are you more of a pacifist? By the way, neither one of them is right or wrong in the investing world. I'm just putting it out there as understanding who you are and making sure, the old saying is, a leopard can't change their stripes. Our job is to meet you where you are and figure out, okay, what's the right approach for who you are to make sure that, going back to the concept today, the theme of today, which is time and money, because money, no matter what you're doing with your investments, no matter how you look at it emotionally or pragmatically and rationally, all we're really trying to do is buy us time. And I want to throw out a math equation for you. So if you're on a run right now listening to me, or if you're driving, try to follow through what I'm going to go through over the next 45 seconds to a minute. If you're sitting down, grab a pen. And by the way, come back to this, mark this point, because this math here is really the mathematical equation that is going to buy you time. That's what everyone's trying to do. We're all trying to say, okay, I want to grow money and this, that, and the other. And I mentioned the word wealth, and what ultimately wealth buys us is freedom. I think when I say that word wealth, how many of you first kind of looked in your head and just kind of thought subconsciously, like, wow, wealth, man, that seems like a lot of money. Why do we define the word wealth as like having a ton of money? I really want to go through this today, because wealth, to me, the wealthiest people I've seen tend to be the happiest, because they're not necessarily chasing money. They actually have their freedom. They're choosing to have money be their employee versus money be their boss. And I think it's a good challenge for all of us at any time, no matter whether you're looking at a purchase or an investment or just overall retirement, is to making sure you see that concept.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
Now, anytime I run a financial plan for a client, there's two things we talk about mainly when it comes to investing and the numerical part of the plan. Remember, the numerical part's all the income, the outflows, the debts, the investing, all that stuff. The qualitative part is more the interests, the goals, the hobbies, like basically what you want your money to be doing for you at some point when you have that financial freedom or ultimately retirement. And the two things we talk about when it comes to investing in the numerical side is rate of return and distribution rate. Now, likely you know what I'm talking about in the first part, the rate of return. That's how much you're earning, right? Everyone loves to talk about it, and it's okay. Likely you've had a conversation. Heck, you might have had a conversation this morning, whether it's a tableside conversation or conversation at the coffee shop. Maybe it's organic, or maybe you manufactured the conversation. However it arose, you might have had a conversation around, an investment, a stock, an idea, a startup company, whatever it might be. Think about this conceptually. How many times have you gone through and said, okay, if I invest in that, what will that get me? Not what will it earn you, but what will it get you? Because there's some questions you should ask in any investing to make sure that you have the two parts that I'm talking about. The rate of return is equally as important, friends, as the distribution rate. What is the distribution rate? Okay, good old math, back to like third grade. Numerator over denominator. That's equals an output, right? Never thought you'd use that equation again. So let me walk through this for a second because this is what any solid financial plan is based off of. Now, I know I might lose some here on a podcast. I understand it's an audio here. This is where it's good to have a conversation with your advisor or reach out to us. We'll go through this with you. But if you're sitting down, write this down. Write X over Y equals I. Yeah, good old math, baby. But this math equation is vital to your financial success. The X part, the numerator part, is what you need to pull from your assets. Now, to get to that number, you have to basically do a quick math beforehand. What you have coming in, so whether that's Social Security, pension, or current income right now, minus what you have going out. Now, you only have a numerator if there's a deficit. For example, if you have $100,000 coming in, but you have $150,000 going out, your X, your numerator, is $50,000. You need $50,000 to pull from some assets at some point to live the life you want to live. So let's use that for a second. All right, if you have $50,000 a year that you need, that's your numerator. Now I want to shift gears for a second, just give you some background. There's empirical data that comes out every year, and I won't go into the specifics of it today necessarily, but essentially to say that the distribution rate, a sustainable one, over a 25 plus year retirement, depending on certain allocations, is somewhere around 4 to 5%. That's your I, that's the output here, okay? So let's plug that in. If we have 5% on the outside and we have $50,000 that we know we need, we can solve for our denominator. Now I know I might have lost you there, but hear me out here. If we have $50,000 divided by what equals 5%? Anyone with good math or a calculator can see that's $1 million. So great, Brad, you can do math. Awesome, good for you, right? So I want to bring some context here. This, my friends, if you're listening here and you're in your 20s or 30s, this just gave you what number you would need to save by the time you want to retire. Now, I know this might not be some big mic drop moment, but I'm telling you, that's pretty profound because you know how many times I've met with people who are in their 50s or 60s doing a discovery meeting, and they've been working somewhere for 20 or 30 years, all right? And they don't even know what they're going for. They might have an idea like, I want $1 million, something like that. And that's great to have a goal, but it's really forming the why. Because ultimately, your assets are buying you time, right? So we need to make sure that if we can get to that million sooner than you think, then guess what? You can retire sooner than you think. Wouldn't that be nice? Again, you may not need to or want to, but you now have money in your control. It's in your employment, not the other way around. So you basically then can take that number and back into what you need to save today with an assumed rate of return to get to your denominator, to get to your number. In my example, to get to $1 million if you need $50,000 a year on top of other income to live how you want to live. That's your 5% outcome. Again, not sure who I'm speaking to today, but I want to be very clear about this. Anytime you run a well thought out, well-designed, comprehensive financial plan, this withdrawal rate or distribution rate is paramount because it answers so many questions. To the young who are still building and planning and saving, it gives you the number you need to go for. To the older, for example, it tells you really a lot of things when it comes to your investing, right? It tells you what you need to be earning throughout retirement to sustain your retirement. One of the number one questions I think I get asked right when people are on the doorstep of thinking about or going into retirement is, do I have enough money? Or said differently, will my money last my entire retirement? And this number tells an investment manager how to manage your assets. How many of you have the concept out there that as you get older, you feel like you should get more conservative? It's a rule of thumb. It's been out there forever. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but the equation I just gave you gives you context to that. For example, if your distribution rate on what you need versus divided by what you have is lower than 5%, you don't need to be going and out earning or shooting for the fence, if you will, in your investments. You can definitely go more conservative. Make sure you build back what you're taking. If your distribution rate is in the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10%, going and sticking yourself in cash or bonds may not be the right approach because you're going to be taking more than you're earning. So everything around planning, it doesn't rely on rules of thumb, but it relies on strategic math and understanding how context fits for you. I want to wrap this episode up today with something that I want to share here for a second. And I think this is going to charge some of us, and this might have been a little more of a motivational one today. And I want it to be so because we're ending tax season. We've had 15, 16, 17 months of, just volatility and, market disruption and just a lot of questions going on. And I want to speak to someone right now around this and hear me loud and clear when I say this. Right now, wherever you're at, you either get paid for the decisions that you made years ago, or you pay for decisions you made years ago. The decision is yours, my friend. It's important to make sure that if there's any catalyst that's going to get you going on some things, now might be the time. I don't care what age you're listening to me at right now. It matters that you get into action, because when you look at yourself a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you either get paid for the decisions you made years ago, or you pay for decisions you made years ago. Again, the choice is yours. Have money work for you to buy you time and buy you freedom. Don't forget how the approach goes here, right? Work brings you money. Money buys you assets. Assets bring you wealth. And wealth buys you freedom. Not necessarily a number, not attaching yourself to the identity of an amount, but understanding what your number is for you and your family. That, my friends, is how money can ultimately buy you time. And time is wealth, because you can't buy more of it. I want to thank you for listening to the Make Your Money Matter show. As always, remember, before acting on anything discussed today, speak with a financial advisor near you about your specific situation. Or again, if you'd like our help, you can visit us at onecapital.com or give us a call at 805-410-5454. And until next week, always remember, make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.